Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Journey to Purpose. Today, I have with me the fascinating Marvin Wilkerson, who is a master astrologer and hypnotherapist. Marvin, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
First, very easy question then is where in the world are you?
I am in Nashville, Tennessee.
I do like Nashville. I have the privilege of going to the Grand Ole Opry and hanging out in some of the amazing places in Nashville. So you're very lucky in my mind to be living there.
Yeah, it's a music town.
So it is a excellent. Do you know what? I didn't think I liked country music when I was younger. And it turns out I do. And Nashville is just a wonderful place to experience it if you can ever get there.
Good.
So
Glad
thank you. So you're a master astrologer. So first of all, what is a master astrologer?
I've been studying it for 50 years. I think that probably makes me a master.
Yeah.
I'm more so aligned with spiritual astrology and evolutionary astrology.
Okay.
So I'm not a prediction manager, so to speak. I don't revel in predicting events and stuff like that. I'm more concerned and care about a person's path in life, why they chose it, what they're trying to accomplish, establish, some of the conflicts that they're going through and why.
Sounds very sensible. When did you discover astrology? Because obviously when when we think about astrology, we think about horoscopes in the newspaper or online these days. But
Yeah.
50 years is a long time to dedicate yourself to something. So what was it that brought you to it in the first place?
Well, I grew up in Virginia Beach, Virginia, where, of course, is the Edgar Cayce Foundation. And there's a lot of metaphysics and spiritual things that go on there. And I read a book called Think on These Things by Judah Krishnamurti. And once I read that book, I just got this understanding that I could actually think for myself along the lines of spirituality or religion or just in general. And of course, I was introduced to an astrologer from England, and she just knew me. And I said, there's no way she could know me like that. So that was my first driver into astrology. And of course, I started getting the psychic reading and tarot card readings and discovery of the Edgar Cayce Foundation with all his 14,000 readings. And that pretty much set me on my path in life. And I've been
Amazing.
studying ever since. Astrology is an obsession. You just can't you don't learn astrology per se when you read a couple books. You don't learn astrology in a year or two. Astrology is a very complex art science, and you really have to pour yourself into it and kind of, I want to learn more. I want to learn more. I want to learn more. And I mean,
Mm.
I have bookshelves and bookshelves of astrology books, much less conferences and teachers. And I had a spiritual teacher that was an astrologer, came into my life in the 90s. And we studied astrology from a spiritual standpoint and he was big into Native Americanism. And then I started studying the phases of the sun, moon, and astrology, which is part of a Dane Rudyard, which is one of the greatest astrologers to ever live. And of course, studied under Jeff Green, which wrote the book Pluto, which is about evolutionary of the soul. So I just have a lot of teachers. I've read a lot. You asked me why I call myself a master. I've probably read well over 10,000 charts. So, astrology is very much observation correlation. And when you start observing energy and how people are using energy, then there tends to be a greater understanding than what just reading a couple books could do.
For sure. So what is the process? And also you don't just do astrology, you also are a hypnotherapist as well, I understand. But what is the process of working with you like? Do people come to you for habit change or to realize their life path? or reconnect with their why? What is the driver for people who work with you?
Goodness sakes, it's much more than, people have conflicts, all sorts of conflicts, whether it's depression or anxiety or fears or um, any number of relationships, whatever people goes on within their lives. Everything is addressed by hypnosis. And then, of course, when you add NLP, neuro linguistic programming, now you're talking about the conditioning and the programming from early childhood playing out in the current events in your life that you keep following in the same old trap over and over and over until you change the way the subconscious accepts threats, accepts the way you respond to life in certain circumstances, and so forth. So, hypnosis is very valid to understand not only our conflicts, but why we have those conflicts in our conditioning and programming. So, that kind of dovetail me into the whole working with people, not only on from an energetic side with astrology, but also working with the subconscious mind, which is the subconscious mind is a million times more powerful than the conscious mind. So
Hmm.
it stands to reason you'd want to know what's going on with the subconscious mind. I mean, my favorite quote is Carl Jung said, when the conscious mind knows what's in the subconscious mind, you'll be enlightened. So
Very true.
that pretty much says it all.
Absolutely. So I think in my experience, I'm also an NLP and hypnotist, but I don't do the astrology side of things. And in my experience, people have different misconceptions about hypnotherapy, but I imagine when you combine it with astrology, again, there are bigger misconceptions. So for someone who's curious about, your work and how it comes together, what would you recommend as a gentle step to kind of get them used to the idea of the combination?
Well, look, all is energy. Everything is energy. Match the frequency and vibration, and you will have it. So Einstein talked quite a bit about all is energy. Everything is energy. So when a person comes to me, I'm going to read their birth chart. I'm going to know their birthday, and I'm going to pull up the astrology map, and the astrology tells me what energy they're working with and tells me if it's something that they've got a talent in or if it's something that they're conflicted with. Energies have relationships, and those relationships are understandable to help you understand the whys of your life. And it helps you understand where your conflicts start showing up in your life. So astrology is the map of energy. And when people come to me with confused or distraught or personal struggles or life struggles, the astrology map helps me to understand how to best help them understand the energy they're dealing with. So when I get to the what their conflict is around that energy, well, then that allows me to explore the subconscious of how they're reacting and responding to these conflicts and events in their life. And then if, 95% of all major conflict in your life was programmed before the age of 7. So think about that for a second.
Mm.
Before 7 years old, your conflicts were seated in your life. And so um, that's where you're going to begin. You're going to do a lot of parent-child techniques, sometimes regression. You're going to address anxieties of why you're holding on to the past and fears. And of course, so there's so many reasons that people come to me and how I'm able to help them with these tools.
Very powerful because essentially the astrology gives you the map, and then with the hypnosis and NLP, you can really go to the root cause of that journey and redirect, unpick whatever it is that needs to be done. That's quite a powerful combination.
Well, the astrology shows the subconscious mind. And when you see a lot of energy in an astrology chart and a person's subconscious mind, well, then you know they're bringing that forward from their past. And obviously, they've had a perspective or perception that's been in error in other lifetimes that needs to be corrected. And that's why they're going to face the same exact thing so that they can see it from another angle to correct that perspective and perception.
Like I said, it's a powerful combination. Now, you've also you're a prolific reader, we know already, but you also write a book, and you've written a book very recently. Can you tell me what it's called and what it's about, please?
My book?
Yes.
Oh, Soul Fusion Healing. It's a integrating body, mind, and soul. Well, because there's no separation between our soul, our thinking mind, our subconscious mind, as well as our body. You know, the body is the physical form of your conscious mind. So what is ever in your conscious mind is going to be played out on the body. I mean, we're now coming into the age, a lot of people are studying somatic and somatic healing. And this is just simply healing of the body that's been disrupted through chemicals from the conscious mind um, and the subconscious mind. So that's why that's so important, because the subconscious mind is following the orders of the conscious mind and the body. And so when the body, for example, gets stressed out, well, the subconscious reads that as a threat. And the subconscious mind is every second of every day. It says, am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe? So the subconscious mind's job is to protect you, which kind of is a challenge, because the ego mind wants to protect you as well. It is unaware of the subconscious mind. So the ego mind makes you right at the expense of anything and anybody else. It does not let you be wrong. So when there's a conflict between what is and what the ego mind wants you to believe, that creates a real conflict, and it's typically played out because of suppression, repression. And when it is played out, we call that the shadow. And the shadow is nothing more than what you've stuffed down all your life. And now it's being presented to you from another person.
Was there a particular event that inspired you to write the book, or is this an aggregation of your experiences over the last 50 years?
Well, so my book is about the combination of all that. It puts it all together. You know, sometimes I'm asked what is the most important thing in the book, and I'll tell you what's the most important thing with everybody, and that's negative self-talk. And when you get into negative self-talk, that disrupts. I mean, it causes more disruption than any one single thing. And the self-talk can originate from the ego. It can originate from the programming and conditioning, because the subconscious mind doesn't use language. It uses the body. How does the body interpret and feel about whatever you're experiencing? And so when you experience something good, well, then the body is at neutral, homeostasis. When you experience something that you may not like, or something that causes you stress, well, the subconscious mind then reads that as a threat to your life. And so it goes back into a file cabinet and pulls out the file of how to respond to a certain threat. And so it's very important to speak positively. Even Dr. David Hawkins is one of my favorite people, and he talked about fear, for example. There are no fears. Every fear you could possibly have, you make up. There's no such thing as fear. And so we're all the time making stuff up that can cause great conflict. He's also talked about, because he did a lot of kinesthetic or muscle testing. He talked a lot about, when you have a negative thought, you lose 50% of the muscle strength in your body. And that is very powerful. So now that is the bedrock to not being negative, not thinking in negative terms.
That I did not know that 50% of your muscle strength. But it's fascinating, isn't it? My husband and I are polar opposites. My glass is half full, his is half empty. I'm sure we drive each other mad on any given day for any given reason as a result. Um, but we had this conversation recently because I am naively optimistic sometimes about most things. It never occurs to me that something won't work out. And even if it doesn't work out, I'm always like, well, it's fine. I learned something. I grew. I had a great experience. But my husband, he has anxiety as well. And he has admitted in the past that the anxiety has stopped him, like that fear of things not working out, that negativity. And so when you talk about your muscles losing half their strength, well, you've already discussed how actually, it affects the mind, the body's all connected. But I think people really need to understand the physiological and the psychological impact of the things we tell ourselves, good and bad. And the fact that the body keeps the score in these occasions.
Yeah, and that's the next important thing that I try to pass along to people. Time is now. There is no past, there is no future. It's all now. We made up time. So that means that if we go back and bring yesterday into today, we have anxiety because we go back, we pull out a bad experience, and then we bring it into now. Well, that's anxiety. If we go forward, well, then we have a fear of what maybe, might be, could be, should be, and we leave the now. You know, a lot of times I'll use the parable of what Jesus Christ said is why worry about yesterday when yesterday you don't have all the information. Yesterday will take care of itself. Tomorrow will take care of itself. Why worry tomorrow? It'll take care of itself. So when Einstein talked about time does not exist, we invented it. Time is a linear measurement. And that's really why we're here in this third dimension reality, so that we can see events and experiences separated so that we can learn from those events. And we can then make decisions on how we want to perceive them as we grow, as we mature, as we learn, as we get wiser. And so it's very difficult. It has to be practiced. But if you only think in terms of the now, and that's all there is, well, then there's no reason to have fears of tomorrow or anxieties of the past. And that's a very, that's a tough sell. Because
it is.
if you're going to walk the talk, it takes a lot of practice to just keep bringing yourself back to center, back to center, back to center. Just operate with what's in front of you. And that brings me into my next favorite quote of all is Lao. And he was 1,500 years before Christ. And so Lao was a master, and he said, let reality be reality. So you can only gauge reality in the now. You can't, there is no reality of yesterday and tomorrow. The only reality is right in this moment.
I love that, and it's so true. And for me, I got very much into mindfulness for that reason, in terms of it really centers you back on the here and now. But what I often hear, and I'm sure you do too, and as you said, you have to practice these things. But I have to plan financially for the future. I have to plan, for my kids' school lunches and university fees and all the things that are part of life. And so how do you respond to those kind of things going, yes, I understand, but, how do you approach those kind of conversations?
Well, I mean, we've been sociologically, we have been programmed to think that we've got to plan everything out and we got to have goals and we got to do this. There's two things here. Planning and goals. Before your child gets on that bus, you got to make her lunch together. Now, why do you have to think 30 minutes, 2 hours ahead of time to do that? If you understand that all of life is a simulation and you are destined to experience events, people, relationships that will give you specific educations on the errors of your perceptions and for thinking that will help you understand that you are a self-realized God. You are a co-creator. Jesus said it. We understand it now in quantum physics. All is connected. There is no disconnect between your universal consciousness and you. The only disconnect is you doubt or disbelieve that you have the capabilities that you create your life. And when you understand you create your life through your thinking, and then that is part of the responsibility and the discipline you have to self-empower yourself with. What I am, you shall be, even greater things than I have done, you shall do. I mean, what did he say? You're all gods. You are all gods. And that goes, that's what I work on with my Christians that come in here and they have these problems. I'm saying, well, you're creating them. And so but you see, it's wanting to displace responsibility for your experiences.
Mm.
And that there again is probably part of the problem is the disconnect between your soul and your mind and body. I mean, if I told you that all your desire are come to you from the soul, you don't have desires. They're given to you from your soul. Let's think of this for a second. If you have come into this lifetime to decide everything that you want to experience and do of your own accord, why would you become self-realized? You would stay away from anything that doesn't feel good. You'd stay away from anything that's hurtful or any conflict. So you wouldn't have the opportunity to choose sometimes pain, to make great gain of self-understanding. You're in this life for one reason, that's self-realization. You're going to get that self-realization because your soul is the guiding principle for you. And the way it guides you is through your desires.
Do you think that there are scenarios where we don't self-realize? So is from what you're saying there, like our whole lives here in this existence is about that self-actualization, and that ties into so many of the great philosophies of the world anyway. So it's not a new idea from that point of view. But so often we talk about we never quite achieve it. But is the achievement when we die and pass over to the other side? Is there, or whatever it is, or become energy again? Do you have a view on what happens, on how that happens?
Well, you're going to face a limited number of experiences in life. And so in so doing, one of the favorite quotes that I've been really working earnestly with to understand is something Albert Einstein said. An ordinary human being doesn't live long enough to draw any substantial benefit from his own experience. No one, it seems, can benefit from the experiences of others. Being both a teacher and a father, I know we can teach our children nothing. We can transmit to them neither our knowledge of life nor of mathematics. Each must learn its lesson anew. So, in other words, what he's saying is we go through experiences, correct the error in the thinking that keeps us believing we're just basic humans instead of understanding we are co-creator gods or universal consciousnesses or Buddhas or Krishnas or whatever label you want to use. Buddha said it as well. If you want to know the present, look at the past. If you want to know the future, look at the present. So if you want to know yourself, look at the now. This is who you are. And if you want to energetically create a difference in your life, well, then change the frequency and vibration, which means you would obviously want to learn to do some meditations or contemplations. You would want to think positively about what you desire. or what you want, or, desire wise. In other words, it comes into your mind, and you may say, oh, I can't do that. Well, you're right. You can't. But if you have a desire and then visualize it, visualization is the power of man. When you visualize what you do want and you work towards it every day, you will get it, because in the final analysis, you're not the doer either. You're not the doer. Boy, that really drives CEOs up batty when I tell them they're not the doer. You don't have that job because you did it. You have that job because that's where you're supposed to be. And you're not going to create anything that's outside of your scope of creation or of your life's plan. So everything fits, and it fits perfectly to guide you towards self-realization. And then if you achieve self-realization, well, then you can have free will, because the only free will you have is the free will of attitude. You can have any attitude you choose anytime you want. And you can have the free will of using your creativity. You're not stymied in any way to be creative in any way you know best about what you want to do, who you are, what you enjoy. I mean, the equation to life is live your excitement, follow your passion, and let go of the outcome. You're not in charge. And so, yes, is all of this stuff very high-minded and metaphysical? Yes, but it's all been repeated for hundreds and thousands of years of known evolution of humanity right now, and even farther back than that. So, it's like Einstein said, I think 99 times and find nothing. I swim in silence and truth comes to me. And that's Albert Einstein. I mean, so if you want to disagree with that, go ahead.
Absolutely. I love what you touched on there. And my bachelor's degree was in history, and I'm a firm believer that we're just relearning now some of the things that have been known for centuries before. And obviously, from a Western Europe and US point of view, we had the Dark Ages. We lost a lot of this enlightenment that existed in other parts of the world, in Asia in particular. But it does feel, quite ironic that right now we're going, mindfulness, slow down, don't think. And yet the Greeks understood it, the Chinese understood it, centuries and thousands of years ago. Somehow we lost sight of it. And I don't know if that's because we had to lose sight of it to relearn it again. Who knows, but it is fascinating that everything you're saying isn't new. As you pointed out, people before us have said these things. We just don't know how to live them anymore.
Yeah, I mean, there is so many teachers that we've had down through history. Marcus Aurelius, Stoicism, Plato, Aristotle, Buddha, Lao. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. It's never really ending. And then we've got some beautiful people that are open today that really do help teach us. Hermeticism, Kabbalion, all is mind is just the first principle. If all is mind, everything you experience, you're making up in your mind. And so, how many times have we been told down through history, down through the ages, control your conscious thinking, control your mind, meditate, and that's the reason, because we are creating our life. We are creating our circumstances. I mean, it's just like having a relationship. Relationships, people talk to me about their relationships, about different things. And, whether it be children or anything else. And I'm always telling them, look, the most important relationship in your life is the person you're married to or intimate with. That's the most important relationship, because you're going to share your innermost secrets with them. You're going to experience life with them as an objective, and it'll be back and forth. And so, it's one of the things we learn in hypnosis. If you observe it in somebody else, it's in you. Yeah. And so you have to understand that if you are in a situation, in a relationship, it's projecting onto you what's inside of you. And so instead of blaming others for what's inside of you, for being the person that objectifies it for you, how about just taking responsibility for it? How about trying to understand, well, was this my intention? Is this in my heart to have caused this? If it is, well, then you can change your mind about how you would like to respond. If it isn't, then it's the accuser's problem, isn't it?
Mm.
Okay.
Goes back to one of the first things you said of we just have to be accountable for ourselves, and that's the only thing we can control.
Yeah. Because when you transition out of this world, it's only going to be you. and, and you have to stand naked before yourself, and the soul is dressed down by the spirit on what it accomplished and what it failed to accomplish. And the
Mm.
soul completely, totally agrees. So that is the instrument of around the next life.
So going back to your book, Soul Body Fusion, then who should read this? What kind of people? What part of their journey are they on for those who were going to read your book? Do you think?
Well, I put over 200 quotes in the book because I'm a nut about quotes. I have
Why
something like
not?
60 pages and 50,000 words of quotes because I like to understand a truth that spans generations, that is said over and over. And I've never, ever, ever, whether it's studying Native Americanism, whether it's studying galactic relationships in the universe, whether it's studying higher mind, metaphysics, spirituality, it's all relevant information that helps you to accept a truth as it's said, because they all say the same thing. If I hear somebody tells me, well, this is true, well, if it's been said in the past over and over, and I can buy into that. If you're saying, well, read this and read one book, and that's the only truth, well, I'm not going to buy that because truth is revealed over and over and over through many, many people that have lived and through generations and lives of whole civilizations. I mean, I think some of the most spiritual people in our current generations was Native American Indians. I mean, those people prayed to spirit for everything.
Mm.
And I think that if you're going to keep your mind into anything, keep it in gratitude and keep it in the gratitude for what spirit has given you. And that's your opportunities in life to become self-realized.
Amazing. Marvin, how can people buy your book and how can they work with you if they want to?
They can go to Amazon.com and buy my book. They can go to my website for hypnosis, is BL Boy Larry, hypnosis.com. And they can go to my astrology website at astromars.com. And
Perfect.
they can connect with my book there or they connect with me from there.
Amazing. I'll put it all in the show notes. It's been really interesting talking to you. Thank you very much. I really hope the book does well and your journey continues to be as enlightening as it should be.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having me.
Thank you very much.